Hey everyone, welcome back to the English Connect podcast, your home for learning English through real-life conversations. I'm your host, Sophia, and joining me as always is my incredible co-host, Jason.
Hey, Sophia. Hey, everyone. So excited for today's episode. I have a feeling this one is going to hit close to home for a lot of people.
It really will. Jason, before we get into it, tell me, how was your week?
Honestly, eventful. So I was driving to the grocery store and someone just cuts me off out of nowhere. No signal, just swoops right in front of me. And old me, I would have honked, maybe yelled something, been fuming for the next 20 minutes.
And what did you do this time?
I just took a breath, let it go. I thought, I don't know what's going on in that person's life. Maybe they're rushing to a hospital. Maybe they're just having a terrible day. Either way, it's not worth my peace.
Jason, I love that so much, and it's the perfect lead-in for today's topic.
What are we talking about today?
Today, we're exploring something that sounds simple but is honestly one of the hardest skills to master, the power of not reacting. And I'm not talking about being passive or emotionless. I mean choosing your response instead of being controlled by your impulses.
This is so relevant. I think we live in a world that rewards instant reactions, breaking news, instant replies, comment sections, and we've forgotten the art of pausing.
Exactly. And that pause, it can change everything. So here's what we have for you today. First, Sophia and I will have a deep conversation about why we overreact, what it costs us, and how to build the power of the pause.
Then we'll break down 5 vocabulary words and phrases to help boost your English.
And we'll close with a challenge to help you practice this skill in your own life this week.
But before we dive in, if this podcast has helped you even once, please hit that like button and subscribe. It means the world to us.
And drop a comment below. What's a situation where you wish you had not reacted? We want to hear your stories.
All right, let's get into it.
So Jason, let's start at the beginning. Why do we react so fast in the first place? Why is it so hard to pause?
I think it comes back to biology, right? Our brains are wired for speed when we perceive a threat. It's the fight or flight response.
Yes, the amygdala, the part of the brain that processes emotions, fires before the rational prefrontal cortex even has a chance to weigh in. So the reaction happens before the thinking does.
So biologically, we're designed to react first and think later.
Exactly. Thousands of years ago, that was essential for survival. If a tiger jumped out of the bushes, you didn't have time to calmly analyze the situation. You needed to react instantly.
But now we're applying that same survival response to an annoying email or a snarky comment on Instagram.
Right. Our nervous system doesn't distinguish between a physical threat and an emotional one, so we get the same adrenaline spike whether we're facing a tiger or reading a passive-aggressive text from a coworker.
That's wild when you think about it. We're treating micro-stressors like emergencies.
And then we say or do things we regret because we acted from that panicked, emotional place rather than a calm, clear-headed one.
So what else drives overreacting? Is it just biology?
Not at all. I think our environment plays a huge role. We're living in a culture that rewards fast responses. Think about it. If you post something on social media and someone says something critical, you feel this almost irresistible urge to clap back immediately.
Oh, totally. Like not responding quickly feels like losing somehow.
Exactly. And the algorithm actually rewards reactive content. Outrage, drama, hot takes, that's what gets engagement. So we're being conditioned to react fast and react big.
And I think ego plays a part too. When someone challenges us or disrespects us, there's a part of us that feels like we have to defend ourselves right away, or we'll look weak.
That's so true. There's a pride mechanism at play. Like, if I don't respond immediately and forcefully, people will think I'm a pushover.
But is that actually true?
The opposite, usually. The most powerful people in the room are often the calmest. They don't need to prove anything. They can sit with discomfort, think, and respond with intention.
That's something I've noticed about really confident, grounded people. They don't take the bait easily.
Right. There's a great quote. I don't remember exactly who said it, but it goes something like, The first to raise their voice has already lost the argument.
Wow, that's powerful. So let's talk about what overreacting actually costs us, because in the moment, reacting feels justified, right?
It feels so justified, but the cost can be enormous. The most obvious one is damaged relationships. How many friendships, partnerships, or professional relationships have been seriously hurt by one reactive moment?
I can think of a few in my own life, things said in anger that couldn't be unsaid.
And once words are out there, you can't take them back. You can apologize, but the other person heard it. It plants a seed.
It's almost like your reaction can undo years of goodwill in 5 seconds.
Exactly. And beyond relationships, there's the cost to your mental and physical health. When you're in a constant state of reactivity, always triggered, always on edge, your body is flooded with stress hormones.
And chronic stress isn't just unpleasant, it actually causes physical damage over time. Heart issues, weakened immunity, sleep problems.
Right. Not reacting isn't just emotionally wise, it's literally good for your health.
What about professional costs? I feel like that's a big one.
Huge. Think about how many people have damaged their careers by firing off an angry email, blowing up in a meeting, or posting something impulsively on social media.
I've seen that happen. One moment of reactive emotion and suddenly someone's credibility is gone.
And the frustrating thing is that often the person who triggered the reaction gets to walk away fine, while the reactor suffers the consequences.
So by reacting, you actually give the other person power over your life?
Completely. When someone can push your buttons and make you act against your own interests, they're in control, not you.
That reframe is really powerful. Reacting isn't strength, it's actually surrendering control.
Exactly. And I think that's at the heart of what we mean by the power of not reacting. It's not passivity, it's mastery.
Okay, so how do we actually build this skill? Because it sounds great in theory, but it's really hard in practice.
It really is, but there are concrete things you can do. The first and most important is learning to create a gap between stimulus and response.
What do you mean by that?
So, Viktor Frankl, the famous psychologist and Holocaust survivor, said something like, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. That space is everything.
And how do you create that space when you're flooded with emotion?
Physical techniques help a lot. Something as simple as taking one slow, deep breath before you respond. Or if you're in a heated conversation, saying, "Give me a moment to think about that." Those seconds genuinely change what happens next.
Because you're interrupting the automatic reaction and giving your rational brain a chance to catch up.
Exactly. Your prefrontal cortex, the thinking, reasoning part, is slower than the amygdala. You have to intentionally slow down to let it do its job.
That makes so much sense. What else helps build this skill?
I think learning to observe your own emotional state in real time is crucial. There's a practice in mindfulness called naming to tame. When you notice an emotion rising, you name it silently. I'm feeling angry right now. I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling defensive.
And just naming it helps?
Research actually shows it does. Labeling an emotion activates the prefrontal cortex and literally calms the amygdala. It's like turning on the rational part of your brain just by giving the feeling a name.
That's fascinating. So instead of being swept away by the emotion, you're observing it from a slight distance.
Exactly. You're not suppressing it, you're witnessing it. There's a difference between I am angry and I notice I'm feeling angry right now. The second creates space.
I love that. What about when someone says something really hurtful or provocative? How do you not react to that?
That's the hardest scenario, honestly. I think one thing that helps is asking yourself, why might this person be behaving this way? Not to excuse bad behavior, but to understand it.
Like your driving story, thinking maybe that person was rushing to a hospital?
Right.
Most people who act hurtfully or aggressively are coming from a place of their own pain. That doesn't make what they did okay, but it helps you not take it so personally.
And if you don't take it personally, you don't feel as compelled to react.
Exactly, because a lot of reactive moments come from feeling like our identity or dignity is under attack. But if you're secure enough in yourself, you can absorb a provocation without feeling like you have to strike back.
So, inner security is kind of the foundation of this whole skill?
Absolutely. The people who rarely overreact aren't suppressing emotions, they're just more grounded. They don't need to prove themselves or defend their ego at every turn.
And you can develop that groundedness through practices like mindfulness, therapy, journaling.
Exactly. The more you know yourself and the more secure you are in who you are, the less other people's behavior can destabilize you.
What about in the context of arguments or conflict? Is not reacting the same as backing down?
No, and this is so important to clarify. Not reacting doesn't mean not responding. It means not responding impulsively, emotionally, or destructively.
So you can still address something, you just do it from a calmer place.
Exactly. And paradoxically, a calm response is almost always more powerful and more persuasive than an explosive one. When you stay composed while someone else loses their cool, you hold the authority in that interaction.
I've seen that. The person who stays calm in a heated argument somehow seems more credible.
Because they do. Calmness signals confidence and self-control. It's hard to dismiss someone who isn't reactive because there's nothing to push against.
That's so smart. You're almost disarming the other person by not matching their energy.
Right. Conflict often escalates because one person reacts and then the other reacts to the reaction. If you break that chain, the whole thing can de-escalate.
So non-reaction is actually a form of conflict resolution?
A powerful one. Sometimes the most transformative thing you can do in a heated moment is simply go quiet.
What does it actually feel like to practice this in real life? Because I think people worry that holding back will feel like suppression.
That's a great question. It doesn't feel like suppression once you practice it enough. It starts to feel like choice, like I see what's happening here, and I'm deciding how I want to show up.
Not I'm biting my tongue, but I'm choosing my response.
Exactly. And that distinction matters because suppression is actually harmful. If you're bottling things up without processing them, that energy has to go somewhere.
So not reacting in the moment needs to be paired with actually processing the emotion later.
Yes, you might decide not to fire off an angry reply, but you still need to work through that anger, through journaling, talking to someone, exercising, whatever works for you.
So it's not about denying emotions, it's about choosing the right time and channel for expressing them.
Perfectly put. The goal isn't to become a robot, it's to become a thoughtful, intentional human being.
I think one thing that's helped me is also asking myself before I respond, will this matter in 5 years? Will it even matter in 5 days?
The 5-year test. I love that. It's such a quick way to assess whether something is actually worth reacting to.
Because so much of what we react to in the heat of the moment is genuinely not significant in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. We get so heated about things that we'll barely remember next month. And by reacting, we can cause real, lasting damage over something that was fleeting.
So the reaction often has a longer impact than the original trigger.
Almost always, which is another reason why pausing is so valuable, not just for the other person, but for yourself. You protect your future self from the consequences of your current emotional state.
Wow, I've never thought about it that way. Your reaction today can become your regret tomorrow.
And your restraint today can become your pride tomorrow.
I love that. Okay, is there anything you'd say to someone who feels like non-reaction means being a doormat?
I'd say there's a massive difference between choosing not to react and having no choice but to accept something. Non-reaction is not weakness, it's not tolerance of mistreatment.
Can you unpack that more?
Sure, A doormat accepts everything and says nothing because they don't feel worthy of speaking up. A person with non-reactive power chooses when, how, and whether to engage from a place of full self-respect.
So one comes from fear or low self-worth, and the other comes from confidence and intentionality.
Exactly. The person practicing non-reaction might decide to address something directly, just not in a reactive, explosive way. Or they might decide it's not worth their energy at all. Both are valid. What matters is that it's a choice, not a default.
That's such an important distinction, because I think some people have been told to just ignore it or be the bigger person in ways that were actually just telling them to suppress and accept mistreatment.
Yes, and that's not what we're advocating. We're talking about emotional self-mastery, which actually gives you more power, not less.
Because when you're not reactive, no one can manipulate you through your emotions.
Exactly. One of the oldest manipulation tactics is provoking someone into reacting in a way that looks bad or makes them do something against their interests. The person who doesn't take the bait cannot be manipulated that way.
So non-reaction is literally protection.
In a very real sense, yes. It protects your relationships, your reputation, your health, and your freedom to act from your values rather than your triggers.
Sophia, this has been such a rich conversation. I feel like I want to go practice being calm immediately.
Which, ironically, requires zero reaction.
Ha, that's very meta. What's your final thought to leave listeners with?
I'd say this. Your reaction is your responsibility. No one makes you react. They may trigger you, provoke you, even hurt you, but the response is always ultimately yours to choose. And every time you pause before reacting, you're exercising one of the most profound freedoms a human being has.
The freedom to choose who you want to be in this moment.
Exactly. And that's worth practicing every single day.
All right, everyone, time for our vocabulary segment. Let's break down 5 powerful words and phrases from today's conversation.
First up, take the bait.
Meaning, to take the bait means to react to something that was designed to provoke or manipulate you. Like a fish being lured by bait on a hook, you fall into the trap someone has set by reacting the way they wanted you to.
Example sentence. His coworker kept making snide comments in meetings, hoping to get a reaction, but she refused to take the bait and stayed completely composed.
Number 2, de-escalate.
Meaning, to de-escalate means to reduce the intensity, severity, or danger of a conflict or tense situation. It's about bringing the emotional temperature down rather than letting things get worse.
Example sentence. Instead of arguing back, he took a deep breath and spoke calmly, which helped de-escalate what could have been a very ugly confrontation.
Our third word, stimulus. Plural, stimuli.
Meaning, a stimulus is anything, an event, a comment, a situation that causes a reaction or response in a person. In the context of today's conversation, it's whatever triggers an emotional reaction in you.
Example sentence. She was working hard to change how she responded to stressful stimuli at work, choosing calm over panic when problems arose.
Number 4, composure.
Meaning, composure is the state of being calm, self-controlled, and collected, especially in a difficult or stressful situation. When you maintain your composure, you don't let your emotions get the better of you.
Example sentence. Even when the interviewer asked an unexpected question, he maintained his composure and answered thoughtfully rather than panicking.
And finally, number 5, impulsive.
Meaning, acting impulsively means acting suddenly without thinking things through, driven by immediate emotion or desire rather than careful thought. An impulsive reaction is one you haven't planned or reflected on.
Example sentence. She regretted her impulsive response to the email. If she had waited a day before sending it, she would have chosen very different words.
Jason, I genuinely feel calmer having had this conversation. Is that strange?
Not at all. Talking about not reacting is itself kind of centering.
It really is. Okay, listeners, here is your challenge for this week.
The next time you feel triggered, whether it's by a comment, a message, a situation at work, or even just traffic, pause for 10 seconds before you respond.
That's it, just 10 seconds. Take a breath, name what you're feeling, and ask yourself, what response will I be proud of?
You don't have to have the perfect answer. You just have to create the gap and notice what happens.
Then come back to the comments and tell us about it. Tell us what triggered you, what you wanted to do, and what you chose to do instead. We genuinely love reading your reflections.
Your stories inspire us and inspire other learners around the world.
And if this episode meant something to you, please share it with someone who tends to react first and think later. It might be exactly what they needed to hear.
As always, if you're enjoying English Connect, hit that like button, subscribe, and leave us a review. It helps more people find us.
Before we go, here's your thought to carry with you. You can't control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. And in that choice lives all your power.
Be thoughtful, be intentional, be the calm in someone else's storm.
This is Sophia
And Jason,
signing off from the English Connect podcast.
keep learning, keep growing, and remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all.